Why haven't I played Hotline Miami? Well, it was only just released on Steam for the Mac. I had wanted to play it before, and its release proved convenient. At least until I found out that if I had waited a day, I would have gotten it for $4 less. Sigh. Oh well, the game is worth every penny I paid for it. Almost. Hotline Miami is a top-down shooter with 16-bit graphics and a soundtrack reminiscent of late 70s and early 80s synth-pop. Imagine a bizarre cross between Hitman, Contra, and the local blood-soaked petting zoo. That's Hotline Miami in a nutshell. It's a tactical Twitch game in which you try and clear level areas of enemies in the most brutal fashions you can think of. Your enemies, for the most part, are extremely fragile, mostly dying in one hit, but you die in one hit as well. This central mechanic makes the game uniquely thrilling, frustrating, and insane at the same time. The feeling of satisfaction you'll glean from clearing a stage can be tempered by the 16 quintillion deaths you suffered to complete it. It's become quite clear that this game is utterly unique, but can it hold up to close scrutiny? Structurally, Hotline Miami is a thrill ride, cloaked in a haze of mind-melding revelations and vague character motivations. Unfortunately, while the execution of the plot is immersive and slots in with the atmosphere of the game quite nicely, it missteps badly in its final act, leaving us not with questions, but with indignation at being talked down to. Warning, spoilers ahead, you have been warned. You play as an unnamed man who takes orders from his answering machine, which consists of cleverly worded analogies to wiping out a level full of Russian mobsters. As he kills his way through an army of mobsters, he has conversations with the masks, which represent his psychological state. These conversations take on the role of a mental jury, convicting the man of his sins while at the same time absolving him. It's at moments like these conversations where the game hints at a bigger picture, rather deliciously I might add. After each mission is completed, he drives to various stores and hangouts to meet the same mysterious bearded man, who gives him free stuff and sends him on his way. Hints of his acts begin to seep into his subconscious, however, and various corpses will start to greet him along the way. Eventually the bearded man is killed, only to be replaced by a threatening bald man. The symbolism of free gratification in games and eventual rejection of society from such pleasures isn't hard to grasp. The game certainly does its best to play with your mind state as you progress through the game, and make you feel more than a little uneasy. Eventually the masked man comes to a phone company, finding everyone slaughtered except for a mysterious man in a helmet. After a difficult battle, he manages to kill him and leave. Remember this, it'll come back later. After killing enough Russian mobsters to attain mass murderer status, things come to a head as a similar masked killer comes to you for his final contract. The target? You. Awakening in his subconscious, the man is confronted with his mortality by his only remaining identity, his accusatory mask persona, Richard. Richard explains that he will never see the big picture, and tells him that it's all your fault. Things go from there to a hospital room, where he tears his head off, removing the last vestiges of his personal sanity. He wakes up in a hospital bed, surrounded by police who want to question him for your involvement in the shootings thus far. He eventually escapes and reacquires his wardrobe of masks. Seeking answers about his would-be killer, he assaults the police station. After wiping out an entire precinct, he encounters the bald killer, who reveals a similar motivation and the location of clues as to who is responsible. From there, the masked man assaults the Russian mob's leader. After taking out their final defenses in a climactic battle involving purple panthers and a blonde ninja, he kills the leaders and has a smoke. The credits then roll. But wait, the story is not finished. Apparently, the story branched from the phone company mission. You take the role of the mysterious helmeted man as he tries to put a stop to his involvement in the answering machine contracts. After slaughtering your way through a Chinese restaurant and an arcade, you learn about some sort of political conspiracy. You then proceed to the phone company, killing everyone in your way. Or not, it's completely optional. You learn the location of where the phone calls are coming from and encounter the masked man, whom you'll kill easily. After receiving a threat from the callers after finding out some of their secrets, you proceed to their hideout. Several different endings can occur here. The great failing of this game is here, by the way. The vanilla ending, where you don't have the foresight to use one and only one mask to find purple dots scattered throughout the game, is where the developers mock you incessantly for seeking out answers to the plot that they designed. They even mock you for choosing questions to be answered. Fellow YouTuber Camster did a video detailing some of the various answers you can get and their indications as to the mindset of the developers, but I got the receiving end of some of the more stupid insults, being called variously an asshole, a creep, and pathetic. Rant. I don't know about you, but I resent being talked down to for trying to figure out your vague motivations for the plot. Respectively, the developers seem to think that the game being fun excuses the terrible, terrible ending which they led us to through the game's design. I didn't even care about the political machinations of the plot, even as I was playing through it. If the game had ended on the balcony as the masked man smoked the smoke of the damned, I would have been fine with that. I would have been totally happy with a vague plot about insanity and the implications of violence, ending with a glorious-ish release of Hyper Carnage. You fight freaking panthers and a blonde ninja for Pete's sake. Sure, there would have to have been a couple more missions to justify the price tag, but the game would have been great for it otherwise. But no, I played through to the end of an epilogue that wasn't even necessary, with a character that I didn't care about even as I killed him in the main campaign, and got mocked for it, insulted for it. Because of this singular ending, your whole game is ruined as a piece of art, and probably deserves to be buried by history. And don't tell me that I should just ignore the story and concentrate on the game. The plot is in the game and has to be evaluated. Ignoring a critical aspect of its overall design and glossing it over is just the coward's way out. The second ending you can get is probably stupider. In fact, it is stupid, beyond belief. Stupider than a sack of Snookies. Stupider than every Insane Clown Posse and Limp Bizkit album blended together. In order to access it, you need to collect the purple dots in every level, and spend some time arranging them in the puzzle screen. The answer access the password to a computer used by the baddies. Apparently what the whole plot is really about is stopping a Russo-American coalition by killing the Russian mafia. What? What? And you're apparently already a member of this organization, dubbed the 50 Blessings, which is conveyed in one of the clumsiest pieces of exposition I've ever encountered in any form of media. What the hell were the developers thinking? In one ending you'd insult the player directly for finishing your game and answering your questions, in the other you insult the player's intelligence with the stupidest possible explanation for your story. Ugh. In brief, this game should have ended on that balcony. The ending, after that, is one of the most convoluted and insulting endings to a game that I've ever played. It basically destroyed my enthusiasm for this game all by itself. Don't get me wrong, the events leading up to that balcony can be awe-inspiring in their audacity, and the overall insanity plot works until we get to that ending. So yeah, most of the story, pretty good. The last act, awful. This is a pretty good looking game, all things considered. For a 16-bit game, it delivers a lot of little details that can help make this world seem alive and lived in. The bright, neon, cartoony style helps distance us from the copious amounts of blood and gore being spilled all over the place. It isn't too cartoony though, and it manages to keep the tone of the game relatively level without turning it into 7, which I don't think anyone would want to play through necessarily. Enemy variety is unfortunately sparse, but the richness of the environments in which they can be found helps mitigate this a bit. Imaginative scenarios get played out here, from a rampage through a police station to a romp through the local arcade. This game certainly delivers some truly great settings. The only nitpick I have about the art design, and what a lot of other people have with it, is the prominent feature of the swaying in the neon background. This game can probably give some players motion sickness, so be warned if you have epilepsy, for this game will own you. From the schizophrenic levels themselves to the red symbols scattered throughout the game, Hotline Miami showcases the best in art design over sheer graphical fidelity. Sound design is Spartan, minimalist. It delivers the sounds it needs to with the impact necessary for immediate experience. Guns and explosions all sound appropriately chaotic, and all of the gore sounds sound nicely visceral as it gets splattered about. Certain sounds are placed for dramatic effect, such as the cocking sound as you pick up literally any object in the game, and the lighter for the final, dramatic cigarette. The sound design helps hone this game into a focused, cinematic experience, despite its graphical style. Complementing the sound design is a soundtrack that is, quite simply, one of the best soundtracks of this generation of games. Inspired by 80s electronica, 60s and 70s psychedelia, and modern-day dubstep, this is a hypnotic blend of styles and textures. Throbbing bass lines and volume-spanning drums greet the eardrums as melodic synths rhythmically punctuate every tense moment in the game. Each level and transition has its own distinctive theme, which run the gamut, showcasing laid-back and lazy psychedelia, blood-pumping thrills, distorted tension, and ambient beauty. There's something here for every electronic fan to get their rocks off on, and the game is elevated to the highest levels because of it. There's barely a weak track on this awesome soundtrack, and it should warrant a purchase all by itself. Hotline Miami's focus on Twitch tactics means that the controls for this game have to be top-notch, and Hotline Miami mostly delivers. Most of the problems I had with the controls could be explained away with an unfamiliarity with the keyboard and mouse. A lot of my deaths actually resulted from missing a crucial button or clicking at the wrong time. Though there are a few problems with navigating doorways, as your character can be remarkably floaty navigating, mostly at the absolute worst times for your particular strategy. The main problems I have with the game, besides its ending, are the frustrating little design flaws that impede the fast flow of this game. There are lots of things I'm willing to forgive in a game which takes a lot of cues from roguelikes. Random enemy patrol patterns? Fine. Enemies that resist certain types of damage but that can be killed by using easily attainable means? Fine. What I can't stand in this game, though, are some of the more random elements, like randomly respawning weapons. In this game, there is a special type of enemy, a fat enemy who can run right through assault rifle fire and melee weapons and punch you to death. The only weapon that even causes him to flinch? A shotgun. Let me describe a scenario to you. There I was, having cleared out an entire floor of Russian mobsters, having picked up an assault rifle with full ammo after the deed was done. The fat guy announces his intention to wreck my fecals, and I take a position with an uninterrupted shot towards his point of entrance. He comes in, I pepper him with bullets, he runs right through them for a beatdown. Rinse and repeat about 30 bleeping times. I start running around and picking up the various weapons lying scattered about. Eventually, I pick up a shotgun. He starts towards me, I shoot him down. He falls down. I'd expended the only 2 rounds in the gun, and I could only watch in horror as he got back up and killed me. Now, knowing what could harm him, the second I respawned, I searched in vain for a shotgun. But nope, it didn't spawn this time now, so I have to die. Rinse and repeat. Finally, I get a shotgun and put him out of my misery. And that's when I knocked a point off of this game. I don't particularly care if anyone else gets some sort of elation from pounding their heads against a brick wall repeatedly until they bash a hole through it. What I do care about is the game at least providing me with the tools with which to smash through that wall without giving me a massive headache. There's no defense for this mechanic narratively or mechanically. It's a dead zone of fun, with no way to strategize for it beyond trying to keep a shotgun throughout the entire level. When one of those fat guys appears in a level, it restricts you to a certain playstyle until he's dead. There's no fun in following one and only one strategy in a Twitch tactics game. At least in FTL, you could at least go down fighting if you were given a bad hand and learn what to look for and how much exploring had to be done to acquire it. But here, those fat guys don't even flinch when you hit them with a full clip of assault rifle ammo, while you pray for a shotgun to come and relieve you from your pain, so your death is frustrating. Yes, one enemy can bring down a game. Think of the infamous slimes from a lot of old school RPGs, or the little sisters from BioShock 2. The fat guys restrict your strategies to the point of wondering what the point of playing the game anymore is. There's a few more little nitpicks I have, like how my shots could somehow miss and go right through the enemies they were heading towards, or how quirky the AI can get, sometimes not hearing an absolute slaughter of their companions in the next room, or its Zerg Rush mentality. Or the scripted events which appear out of nowhere and often at the moment where you've expended all of your ammunition. One instance involved me, a limousine, 2 angry fat dudes, and a pyromaniac throwing Molotovs all over the place. Here's the thing, because I had no idea what was coming, I ended up dying. And then, because I happened to be in the path of the cars that crashed through the glass, I ended up respawning and dying. Again, and again, and again, and again. To top it all off, 2 fat guys come out of the limousine, and I have to rely on there being a shotgun after I respawn. If it's not there, I can't win the level. Several frustrating deaths later, I finally kill all comers and brutally murder the leader, with no satisfaction, no revelations about I am somehow a monster, just cold-blooded frustration running through my veins. You can defend moments like this all you want, but for me, they deserve the mauling they get. So after all that, what are the good points about the game? Well, the game is designed around high scores and differing strategies. You start a mission by picking from an assortment of masks, collected by beating high scores in each map, with differing abilities that you can utilize. One mask will allow you to view more of the map, while another will let you start with a knife. With the abilities in hand, you have to figure out the optimum strategies for clearing the map. Keeping in mind the one-hit death mechanic and the presence of certain enemies, you have to rack up combos and vary your kills to attain higher scores. The game fouls up in this regard though, with many of its requirements being vague to the point of uselessness. What exactly does exposure mean? Does it mean blowing cover? It seems to encourage a stealthy playthrough, but then places enemies in the game that can only be killed by a very loud shotgun. Most of the levels in the game, however, do not feature those fun-sucking sacks of code. So those levels are some of the most pure fun you'll ever have in a game. Seriously, playing through stages packed with Russian mobsters with nothing but a lead pipe and serious twitches is on par with the way SSX handled its snowboarding. It's definitely an experience you will enjoy, but those delights only occupy about 75% of the stages, with the other 25% being frustrating to the point of being slogs to get through. But hey, only 25%. With the awesome art design, awe-inspiring music, and absolute thrill rides of most of the levels, this game squeezes out a recommendation. But just barely. Hotline Miami is one of the weirdest games I've ever had the pleasure of playing. Pacing-wise, it's all over the place, with the cutesy 16-bit graphics standing way out against the brains and blood splattered everywhere. The thing is, it weaves a special daring magic all its own. The awe-inspiring soundtrack certainly helps, but it's the finer details that really nail it. Despite several nagging control issues, randomization that really sprouts my Brussels, and an ending that insults the mind with its very existence, this game holds its own, kind of. Obscure only in the sense of its atmosphere, drugs, and existential beats. While this game certainly isn't one of the best of last year, it is still an utterly unique madhouse of blood, drugs, and neon noir that will keep bloodthirsty gamers coming back for more for a very long time.